The spray paint was still wet. Claire Bennett stood in her driveway at 11:47 p.m., staring at the word blazing across her garage door in dripping red letters. Thief. Her hands were still shaking from a 12-hour shift in the trauma bay. Blood under her nails, coffee cold in the cup holder. And now this. A patrol car sat 30 feet away, engine idling, headlights cutting through the dark like searchlights. No siren, no explanation, just watching. She didn't move. The door opened. Boots hit pavement. Officer Dane Holloway walked toward her with the kind of swagger that came from never being told no. Buzz cut, tight jaw, hand resting on his belt like he was already deciding what came next. "You live here?" he asked. Claire blinked. "Excuse me?" Simple question. His eyes flicked to her Honda, then back to her face. "You live here, or you visiting?" She opened her mouth, then stopped, because she knew that tone. The one that didn't actually want an answer. The one that had already decided. "I own this house," she said quietly. Holloway's smile didn't reach his eyes. "That's so?" If you want to see how far a single moment can spiral, how one man's badge becomes a weapon, and one woman's silence becomes a reckoning, stay with me until the end. Drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Because what happens next? It doesn't just shake a neighborhood, it breaks a system. Claire Bennett had bought the house on Ridgefield Avenue 3 years ago, with money she'd saved from 2 deployments and 6 years of working doubles at Crescent General Hospital. It was a small Cape Cod with white shutters and a driveway that cracked in the winter, the kind of place that didn't draw attention. That was the point. She liked quiet. The neighborhood didn't. Ridgefield was the kind of street where people measured each other by lawn care and car models, where homeowners association meetings lasted 3 hours and someone always had an opinion about fence height. Claire didn't go to the meetings. She worked nights, slept days, and kept her head down, which made her an easy target. The graffiti had appeared sometime between 10 p.m. and now. She'd pulled in after her shift, exhausted, and the headlights had caught it. Big block letters, still wet enough to reflect the light. Thief. Her first thought wasn't anger, it was confusion. Then she saw the patrol car. Holloway was already halfway across her lawn, boots crushing the grass she'd watered yesterday. He moved like he owned the space between them, like her property line was a suggestion. "You got ID?" he said. Claire reached for her bag slowly. "Can I ask what this is about?" Vandalism complaint. Someone called it in. She pulled out her wallet, handed him her license. "I just got home. I work at Crescent General, night shift." He studied the card like it might be fake. "This address current?" "Yes." "Uh-huh." He tilted his head toward the garage. "You got any idea who'd write that?" "No." "No enemies? No disputes with neighbors?" Claire's jaw tightened. "I barely know my neighbors." "That right?" Holloway's voice dropped half an octave. "Because I got a call tonight that said someone on this street's been stealing packages, garden tools, mail, and now someone's real pissed off about it." She stared at him. "And you think that's me?" "I think it's interesting that the word showed up on your garage." "Maybe because someone's trying to make it look like me." Holloway handed back her license, slowly. "Or maybe they're trying to warn people." The words hung there. Claire felt something cold settle in her chest. Not fear. Recognition. She'd seen this before. Different uniform. Same energy. "I didn't steal anything," she said. "Then you won't mind if I take a look around." "Do you have a warrant?" His smile came back. "Don't need one if you got nothing to hide." "You need one to search my property." "Not if I got probable cause." "You don't." Holloway stepped closer, close enough that she could smell the coffee on his breath. "You a lawyer now?" "I'm a nurse." "Then maybe you should worry less about warrants and more about how this looks." He gestured at the graffiti. "Because right now, it looks bad." Claire didn't move, didn't blink. "I've been at work since noon. I can show you my badge logs, security footage, whatever you need." "Sure, after we clear this up." "There's nothing to clear up. I didn't do anything." "Then why are you so defensive?" The shift was so subtle she almost missed it. The way his weight settled, the way his hand drifted back toward his belt, Not aggressive, just ready. She'd seen that stance before, too. I'm not being defensive, Claire said carefully. I'm being clear. I didn't steal anything. I don't know who did this. And unless you have a legal reason to search my house, I'd like you to leave. Holloway's jaw worked. You really want to do this? Do what? Make this difficult. I'm not making anything difficult. I'm asking you to follow the law. For a second, something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or irritation, like he wasn't used to people pushing back. Then it was gone. All right, he said. All right, I'll make a note of your cooperation. He turned, walked back toward the patrol car. Claire exhaled. Then he stopped. By the way, Holloway said, not looking back, you might want to clean that up before morning. Wouldn't want the neighbors getting the wrong idea. He got in the car, pulled away. No lights. No rush. Claire stood in the driveway until the taillights disappeared. Then she went inside, locked the door, and didn't turn on the lights. The next morning, she scrubbed the garage door with a wire brush and paint thinner until her shoulders burned. The red came off in streaks, but the ghost of the letters stayed. Faint. Visible, if you knew where to look. She was finishing up when a woman walked over from across the street. Mid-50s, yoga pants, expensive sunglasses. Morning, the woman said brightly. I'm Andrea. We haven't officially met. Claire wiped her hands on a rag. Claire, I heard there was some excitement last night. Just vandalism. Andrea's smile didn't waver. Someone said the police were here. They were. Everything okay? Claire glanced at the faint red shadow on the door. Fine. Well, if you need anything, Andrea paused. Actually, since you're new to the street, you should know we have a neighborhood watch group. We keep an eye out for suspicious activity. You know, safety. Sure. Great. I'll add you to the email list. Andrea glanced at the garage again. You know, someone mentioned they'd seen unfamiliar cars around here. Late at night. Just might want to keep an eye out. Claire looked at her. Unfamiliar how? Oh, you know, not from the neighborhood. Like mine? Andrea blinked. I didn't mean... I work nights. My car's gone a lot. If that's what people are talking about, they can ask me directly. The smile tightened. Of course, just trying to help. She walked away. Claire went inside and didn't come back out. Desi, the hospital was a different kind of chaos. Crescent General sat on the east side of the city, a sprawling complex of glass and concrete that handled everything from heart attacks to gunshot wounds. Claire had been working trauma for 4 years. Before that, 2 deployments as a combat medic. Iraq, Afghanistan. Different deserts. Same blood. She was good at her job, calm under pressure, fast hands, the kind of nurse doctors trusted to catch mistakes before they happened. But she didn't socialize, didn't go to happy hours, didn't talk about her personal life. People noticed. You're like a ghost, her coworker Renee said once. You show up, save lives, disappear. Claire had shrugged. I like routine. You like being invisible. Maybe. But invisible was safe. Tonight, the ER was slammed. Multi-car pileup on the interstate. 6 patients, 2 critical. Claire moved between beds like she was back in a field hospital. Triage, stabilize, move. No hesitation, no wasted motion. By 3 a.m., the worst was over. She was washing blood off her hands when Dr. Patel found her. Good work tonight, he said. Thanks. You okay? Claire glanced at him. Patel was one of the few people she actually liked. Straightforward, didn't pry. Why? You seem tense. Long week, he nodded, didn't push. Well, get some rest. She dried her hands and left. The drive home was quiet, dark streets, empty sidewalks. She took the long way to avoid the interstate, winding through neighborhoods that looked like hers. Neat lawns, quiet houses, the kind of places where people thought they were safe. She pulled into her driveway at 4:15 a.m. The patrol car was already there. This time, Holloway wasn't alone. 2 officers stood by the garage. One was older, gray-haired, arms crossed. The other was younger, fidgeting with his radio. Holloway was leaning against the hood of his car. Claire got out slowly. What's going on? Got another call, Holloway said. Someone reported suspicious activity. At 4 in the morning. Yep. Who called? Anonymous tip line. Claire looked at the other officers. Neither of them met her eyes. What kind of activity? She asked. Someone saw lights on, movement inside. Thought maybe someone was breaking in. I was at work. You say that a lot. Because it's true. Holloway pushed off the car. Look, I'm just doing my job. If you'd let us take a quick look inside, we can clear this up and be out of your hair. No. No? You don't have a warrant. You don't have probable cause. And I'm not consenting to a search. The gray-haired officer stepped forward. Ma'am, we're not trying to hassle you. Then stop showing up at my house. Holloway's expression darkened. You're making this a lot harder than it needs to be. I'm exercising my rights. Your rights? He laughed, short, sharp. Lady, your neighbors think you're a thief. Someone painted your garage, and now you're acting like we're the problem? I'm acting like someone who didn't do anything wrong. Then prove it. I don't have to prove anything. Holloway stepped closer. Too close. You know what I think? Claire's pulse kicked up, but she didn't move. I think you're hiding something, he said. I think you've got a history, and I think it's only a matter of time before we find out what it is. The gray-haired officer touched Holloway's arm. Dane! Holloway shook him off. I'm talking. Claire's voice stayed level. Are we done here? We're done when I say we're done. Then I'm going inside. She turned. Holloway grabbed her wrist. Not hard. Not enough to hurt. Just enough to stop her. Claire froze. Everything went quiet. She looked down at his hand, then up at his face. Let go, she said softly. Or what? The gray-haired officer stepped in. Holloway, let her go. For a second, Holloway didn't move. Then he released her. Claire walked to her front door, unlocked it, and went inside. She locked the deadbolt, the chain, then stood in the dark hallway, breathing hard. Her wrists still tingled where he'd touched her. She didn't sleep. Quiet. By the next afternoon, the neighborhood had turned. Someone had posted about the vandalism on the community Facebook group. The thread exploded. 50 comments in an hour. I knew something was off about her. She never talks to anyone. Cops don't show up for no reason. Claire didn't have Facebook, but Renee did. You need to see this, Renee said, shoving her phone across the break room table. Claire read the first few comments, then stopped. People are idiots, Renee said. You want me to say something? No? Claire, it'll make it worse. So you're just going to let them trash you? Claire handed the phone back. I'm going to let them talk. They'll get bored. Renee looked unconvinced. And if they don't? Claire didn't answer. That night, someone slashed her tire. She found it when she came out for her shift. Front driver's side, clean cut, deliberate. No note, no witnesses. She called a tow truck, got a ride to work from Renee, didn't file a report. Because she knew what would happen. Holloway would show up, ask questions, make it her fault. So she said nothing. Msind. 3 days later, the hospital got hit. Mass casualty event. Gas explosion at a factory on the south side. 12 injured, 4 critical, all hands on deck. Claire worked for 16 hours straight, no breaks, no food, just blood and adrenaline and the mechanical rhythm of saving lives. She was good at it, better than good. At one point, a patient started crashing. Second-degree burns over 40% of his body. BP dropping. Dr. Patel was elbow deep in another case. Claire, someone yelled. She was already moving. Intubation, fluids, stabilize. Her hands moved like they had 1,000 times before. Muscle memory from a war zone. The man lived. By the time the chaos settled, it was past midnight. Claire sat in the locker room, still in her scrubs, staring at nothing. Renee found her there. You okay? Claire nodded. Liar. Claire smiled faintly. I'm fine. You saved 3 people tonight. We all did. Yeah, but you didn't hesitate, not once. Renee sat down. Where'd you learn that? Claire looked at her. Army. Renee blinked. You were in the Army? Combat medic. 2 tours. Shit, I didn't know. I don't talk about it. Why not? Claire shrugged. People treat you different. Renee was quiet for a second. Then, you ever miss it? No. Not even a little? Claire thought about that, about the clarity of it, the simplicity. You saved people, or you didn't. There was no gray. Sometimes, she admitted. Renee nodded. Well, for what it's worth, you're a badass. Claire's smile was small. Thanks, but the next morning, a black SUV was parked in her driveway. Not a patrol car, no markings. Claire slowed, stopped. A man got out, tall, mid-40s, short hair going silver at the temples. He wore a suit, but he moved like military. Claire Bennett, he said. Who's asking? He pulled out a badge. Colonel Marcus Haynes, U.S. Army. Claire's stomach dropped. Haynes looked at her evenly. We need to talk. About what? About the fact that you're still a captain in the reserve, and about the fact that a local police officer has filed 3 incident reports about you in the last week. Claire's jaw tightened. Those reports are bullshit. I know. She blinked. Haynes stepped closer, lowered his voice. I've been following this, the vandalism, the harassment, the unlawful stops, and I'm here to tell you something. He handed her a folder. You're not alone, he said, and this isn't over. Claire opened the folder. Inside were copies of police reports, complaints, photos. Not just hers. There were 5 other cases, all women, 3 of them veterans, all of them targeted by Officer Dane Holloway. Her hands started shaking. Haynes watched her. Internal Affairs opened an investigation 2 days ago. They've been building a case, but they need someone willing to go on record. Claire looked up. Why me? Because you're the one he grabbed. And because, Haynes paused, because you're still one of ours, and we don't leave people behind. Claire stared at the folder. Then she looked at the colonel. What do you need me to do? Haynes smiled, grim. Tell the truth, and let us handle the rest. The hearing was set for 2 weeks later. In that time, everything accelerated. Internal Affairs interviewed neighbors, pulled body cam footage, subpoenaed records. Holloway tried to bury it, filed counter-complaints, claimed Claire was unstable, dangerous, a liar. But then the other women came forward, a teacher, an accountant, a veteran who worked at the VA, all of them with the same story. Stops without cause, intimidation, threats, and all of them too scared to report it. Until now. The media picked it up. Local news first, then bigger outlets. Veteran nurse targeted by officer became pattern of abuse uncovered. Holloway's face was everywhere. So was Claire's. She hated it. The attention, the cameras, the reporters camping outside her house. But Haynes was right. This was bigger than her. The night before the hearing, someone threw a brick through her window. No note, no explanation, just broken glass and a message. She swept it up, boarded the window, and didn't call anyone. Because tomorrow, she'd say everything, and they'd have to listen. The hearing room was small, beige walls, fluorescent lights, a long table where 3 officials sat with folders and water glasses. Holloway sat on the opposite side, his lawyer next to him. He looked calm, confident. Claire sat alone. Haynes was in the gallery, so were the other women, and a handful of reporters who'd been allowed in. The lead official, a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes, opened the session. This is a formal review of Officer Dane Holloway's conduct in relation to multiple complaints filed over the past 18 months. We'll hear testimony from the complainants, review evidence, and determine whether disciplinary action is warranted. She looked at Claire. Ms. Bennett, you filed the initial complaint. Would you like to begin? Claire stood. Her hands were steady. My name is Claire Bennett. I'm a trauma nurse at Crescent General Hospital, and I'm a captain in the U.S. Army Reserve. Holloway's lawyer sat up straighter. Claire continued. On the night of October 14th, Officer Holloway showed up at my home without cause. He accused me of theft. He demanded to search my property without a warrant, and when I refused, he grabbed my wrist and implied I was guilty of something I didn't do. She paused. That wasn't the first time, and I wasn't the first person. The officials looked at the folders in front of them. Claire pulled out her phone. I have body cam footage, witness statements, medical records, everything you need to see what he did. Not just to me, to all of us. Holloway's lawyer stood. Objection. This is a hearing, not a trial. Ms. Bennett doesn't have the authority to— Sit down, the lead official said flatly. The lawyer sat. Claire met Holloway's eyes. He stared back, cold, unblinking. She didn't look away. I'm not here for revenge, she said. I'm here for accountability. Because a badge isn't a license to abuse people, and silence isn't consent. The room was dead quiet. Then the lead official nodded. Proceed. Claire laid it all out. Every incident, every lie, every moment he'd used his authority to intimidate, harass, and control. And when she was done, the other women spoke, one by one, calm, clear, devastating. By the time the last woman finished, Holloway wasn't smiling anymore. The officials conferred quietly. Then the lead official looked up. Officer Holloway, you're suspended pending a full investigation. You'll surrender your badge and weapon effective immediately. Holloway's face went white. His lawyer started talking, but no one was listening, because the truth was out, and it wasn't going back in. Claire walked out of the hearing into a wall of camera flashes. Reporters shouted questions. Microphones shoved forward. She didn't stop. Haynes was waiting by the curb. You okay? Yeah. That was damn good work in there. Claire nodded. What happens now? Now, the system does its job. He paused. Or we make sure it does. Claire looked back at the building, at the reporters, at the women standing together on the steps. She thought about the graffiti, the broken window, the man who'd grabbed her wrist, and she thought about the boy from the factory explosion, the one she'd saved. He was still alive, still breathing, because she hadn't given up. Haynes touched her shoulder. You did the right thing. Claire nodded, but as she got in her car and drove away, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Because Holloway wasn't just a bad cop. He was part of something bigger. And somewhere, in the dark corners of the department, someone was watching. Someone who didn't want the truth to spread. And they were already planning their next move. The call came 3 days later. Claire was in the hospital cafeteria picking at a sandwich she didn't want when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Bennett? Ms. Bennett, this is Lieutenant Sarah Voss with Internal Affairs. We need you to come in. Claire set down the sandwich. When? Today, as soon as possible. What's going on? There was a pause. We've uncovered additional evidence, and we need your statement on record. Claire glanced at the clock. Her shift started in 2 hours. I can be there at 5. That works? Thank you. The line went dead. Renee slid into the seat across from her. Who was that? Internal Affairs. Again? What now? Claire shook her head. Don't know yet. Renee frowned. You sure you're okay with all this? The hearing, the media? It's a lot. I'm fine. You keep saying that. Because it's true. Renee leaned back. You know what I think? I think you're tougher than anyone gives you credit for. But tough doesn't mean invincible. Claire met her eyes. I know. Do you? Claire didn't answer. She stood, tossed the sandwich in the trash, and headed for the locker room. She wasn't invincible. She knew that better than most. But she also knew how to keep moving when everything told her to stop. It was the only way she'd survived this long. The IA office was downtown, tucked inside a gray municipal building that smelled like old coffee and bureaucracy. Claire signed in at the front desk and was escorted to a small conference room on the 3rd floor. Lieutenant Voss was waiting. Mid-40s, dark hair pulled back tight, eyes that didn't miss anything. She gestured to a chair. Thank you for coming. Claire sat. What's this about? Voss opened a folder. We've been reviewing Officer Holloway's personnel file. Complaints, incident reports, internal reviews. And we found a pattern. I already told you that. You did. But what you didn't know, what we didn't know until this week, is that the pattern goes back further than we thought. 6 years. Maybe more. Claire's stomach tightened. How many complaints? 17 on file, probably twice that many unreported. Voss slid a sheet of paper across the table. These are the ones we can confirm. All women. Most of them minorities or veterans, every single one dismissed or buried. Claire scanned the list. Names, dates, allegations, traffic stops that turned into interrogations, searches without cause, threats, intimidation. Why wasn't he fired? Voss's expression hardened. Because his commanding officer covered for him. Who? Captain Raymond Driscoll. He's been Holloway's supervisor for 8 years. Every complaint that came through his desk got quietly shelved. No investigation, no follow-up, just disappeared. Claire looked up. And you're just finding this out now? Driscoll's good at hiding things, but he made a mistake. Voss tapped the folder. 3 months ago, one of the women Holloway targeted filed a formal complaint with the mayor's office. Not the department. The mayor. That triggered an external audit. And once we started pulling threads, everything unraveled. Exactly. Claire sat back. So what do you need from me? We need you to testify, not just about your case, about the system, the culture, the way officers like Holloway get protected. Voss leaned forward. This isn't just about one bad cop anymore. It's about the people who enabled him, and we need someone willing to stand up and say it out loud. Claire's jaw tightened. You want me to go after Driscoll? I want you to tell the truth. Where it leads is up to the evidence. Claire thought about the brick through her window, the slashed tire, the whispers that followed her everywhere now. If I do this, she said slowly, it gets worse. You know that. I do. They'll come at me harder. Probably. And you can't protect me. Voss didn't blink. No. But I can make sure your voice is heard, and I can make sure the people responsible face consequences. Claire looked at the folder, at the names, at the women who'd been silenced. She thought about the boy from the factory explosion, the one she'd saved. He hadn't asked to be burned, hadn't deserved it, but she'd fought for him anyway. These women hadn't asked for this either. When do you need me? Claire said. Voss's expression softened, just a fraction. Next week. Full deposition, recorded testimony. It'll take most of the day. Fine. You're sure? Claire stood. Yeah, I'm sure. Voss walked her to the elevator. As the doors slid open, she touched Claire's arm. For what it's worth, Voss said quietly, you're doing the right thing. Claire nodded, but as the elevator descended, she couldn't shake the feeling that the right thing was about to cost her more than she'd bargained for. The parking garage was dim and cold. Claire's footsteps echoed off concrete as she walked to her car. She was halfway there when she heard it. Another set of footsteps. Behind her. She didn't turn, didn't speed up, just kept walking. The footsteps matched her pace. Claire's pulse kicked up. She palmed her keys, sliding one between her fingers. Not much of a weapon, but better than nothing. 10 feet from her car. The footsteps stopped. Claire stopped too. She turned. A man stood 30 feet away, backlit by a flickering overhead light. Jeans, hoodie, hands in his pockets. Help you? Claire said. The man didn't move. I said, can I help you? He pulled something from his pocket. For a split second, Claire's body tensed, ready to run. But it wasn't a weapon. It was a phone. He held it up, aimed it at her, then he turned and walked away. Claire watched him disappear into the shadows. Her hands were shaking. She got in her car, locked the doors, and sat there for a full minute before starting the engine. Someone was watching, and they wanted her to know. The next morning, Claire woke to her phone ringing. Early, too early. She grabbed it off the nightstand. Haynes. Yeah? You see the news? Claire sat up. What news? Turn on channel 7. She fumbled for the remote, flipped on the TV. The morning broadcast was already running. A blonde anchor with perfect teeth smiled at the camera. New developments in the ongoing police misconduct investigation. Sources say that Captain Raymond Driscoll, a 20-year veteran of the department, has been placed on administrative leave pending an internal review. Claire's breath caught. The anchor continued. Driscoll has not been charged with any crime, but insiders say the investigation centers on allegations that he systematically covered up complaints against officers under his command, including Officer Dane Holloway, who was suspended last month following multiple accusations of harassment and abuse of power. The screen cut to footage of Driscoll leaving the precinct. Mid-50s, broad-shouldered, face like carved stone. He didn't look at the cameras, didn't say a word. "Holy shit," Claire whispered. Haynes's voice crackled through the phone. "They're moving faster than I expected." "Is that good or bad?" "Depends. If they're trying to get ahead of the story, it's good. If they're trying to control the narrative before it blows up, it's bad." "Yeah." Claire muted the TV. "What do I do?" "Same thing you've been doing. Keep your head down, don't talk to reporters, and watch your back." "Someone followed me last night." Haynes went quiet. "Where?" "Parking garage, downtown, after my meeting with IA. Did they touch you?" "No, just watched. Took a picture." "Shit." Haynes exhaled. "All right, I'm putting someone on you." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do. You're a witness now, Claire, and witnesses get targeted." His voice hardened. "I'll have someone outside your house by tonight. Don't argue." Claire wanted to argue, but she didn't. "Okay. Good, I'll call you later." He hung up. Claire sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the muted TV. Driscoll's face filled the screen. Cold. Controlled. She'd seen men like him before. The kind who didn't break under pressure, who doubled down, who made you regret standing up. She turned off the TV and got ready for work. The hospital was buzzing. Word had spread. Claire could feel it the moment she walked through the ER doors. Nurses whispering, doctors glancing her way. Renee intercepted her at the lockers. "You're famous." "Don't." "I'm serious. Someone posted the news story in the staff chat. Half the hospital's talking about you." Claire shoved her bag into the locker. "Great. Hey." Renee's voice softened. "You okay?" "I'm fine." "Stop saying that." Claire slammed the locker shut. "What do you want me to say, Renee? That I'm scared? That I don't know what the hell I'm doing? That every time I turn around, someone's watching me or threatening me or trying to make me disappear?" Renee blinked. Claire exhaled. "Sorry, I didn't mean—" "No, you're right." Renee leaned against the lockers. "This is insane, and you shouldn't have to deal with it alone." "I'm not alone." "Yeah? Who's helping you?" Claire didn't answer. Renee shook her head. "That's what I thought." They worked the shift in silence. Claire threw herself into it. Vitals, charts, IVs, anything to keep her mind off the news, off Driscoll, off the man in the parking garage. By midnight, the ER had quieted. Claire was restocking supplies when her phone buzzed. Unknown number again. She hesitated, then answered. "Bennett." Silence. "Hello?" Still nothing. But she could hear breathing. Claire's grip tightened on the phone. "Who is this?" A click. Then a voice. Male. Low. Distorted. "You should have kept your mouth shut." The line went dead. Claire stood frozen. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Renee appeared in the doorway. "You good?" Claire shoved the phone in her pocket. "Yeah, fine." You don't look fine." "I said I'm fine." Renee studied her for a long moment. Then she stepped closer. "Claire, if something's wrong, you need to tell someone." "There's nothing to tell." "Bullshit." Claire met her eyes. "Drop it, Renee." Renee opened her mouth, closed it, then walked away. Claire finished restocking and left. The parking lot was empty except for a handful of cars scattered across the far end. Claire walked fast, keys already out. A black sedan was parked 2 spaces from hers. She slowed. The driver's window rolled down. A woman leaned out. Older. Gray hair. Tired eyes. "Claire Bennett?" Claire stopped. "Who's asking?" The woman held up a badge. "Detective Maria Ortiz, homicide." Claire's stomach dropped. "Homicide?" "Relax. You're not in trouble." Ortiz opened the door and stepped out. "I need to ask you a few questions." "About what?" "About Officer Dane Holloway." Claire's pulse quickened. "I already gave my statement." "I know. This isn't about the harassment case." Ortiz glanced around the lot. 3 weeks ago, a woman named Melissa Tran filed a restraining order against Holloway. She claimed he'd been stalking her for months, showing up at her work, her apartment, making threats. "Okay." 2 days ago, she was found dead in her home. Single gunshot wound to the head. Claire's breath stopped. Ortiz watched her carefully. Initial report said suicide. But the scene didn't add up. No note, no history of mental illness, and the angle of the wound, she shook her head. We're treating it as a homicide investigation. And you think Holloway? I think he had motive. I think he had opportunity, and I think he's dangerous. Ortiz stepped closer. I also think you're in his crosshairs, so I'm here to give you a heads up. Claire's hands were shaking again. What kind of heads up? The kind that says, watch your back. Don't go anywhere alone. And if you see him, anywhere, anytime, you call me immediately. Ortiz handed her a card. My cell's on the back. I mean it, Claire. Don't hesitate. Claire stared at the card. Do you have proof that he killed her? Not yet, but we will. Ortiz's expression hardened. Men like Holloway don't stop. They escalate. And right now, you're the one who humiliated him in front of the entire city. So yeah, you're a target. Claire swallowed. What am I supposed to do? Stay visible, stay public. And don't give him an opening. Ortiz got back in her car and drove away. Claire stood in the parking lot, staring at the card in her hand. Then she got in her car and locked the doors. The drive home felt longer than usual. Every car behind her seemed suspicious. Every shadow in her rearview mirror looked like a threat. By the time she pulled into her driveway, her nerves were shot. The house was dark, quiet. She unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The lights didn't work. Claire froze. She flipped the switch again. Nothing. Her pulse spiked. She pulled out her phone, turned on the flashlight. The beam cut through the darkness. Everything looked normal. No broken glass, no signs of entry. But something felt wrong. She moved through the living room slowly, kitchen, hallway. Then she saw it. The basement door was open. Claire never left it open. She stood at the top of the stairs, staring down into the black. Her hand hovered over the light switch. Then she heard it. A creak. From below. Claire's breath caught. She backed away from the door, pulled out her phone, dialed. 911, what's your emergency? Someone's in my house. The operator's voice was calm, professional. Are you in a safe location? I don't know, I'm upstairs. The basement door's open. I heard another creak, closer this time. Ma'am, I need you to leave the house right now. Don't engage, don't investigate, just get out. Claire backed toward the front door. The basement stairs groaned. Someone was coming up. She ran, out the door, across the lawn, into the street. A car screeched to a halt in front of her. Black SUV. The door flew open. A man jumped out, military uniform. Haynes. Get in. Claire didn't argue. She dove into the back seat. Haynes was already on the radio. We've got a break-in at Bennett's residence. Send units now. The SUV peeled away from the curb. Claire looked back. A figure stood in her doorway. Tall, broad-shouldered, watching. Then the street turned, and he was gone. Haynes pulled into a gas station 3 blocks away. Red and blue lights were already streaking past them, heading toward her house. He turned in his seat. You hurt? Claire shook her head. You see who it was? No, just, a shadow. Haynes swore under his breath. This is escalating faster than I thought. Ortiz told me about Melissa Tran. Haynes went still. You talked to Ortiz? She found me at the hospital, told me Holloway might have killed her. Jesus. Haynes rubbed his face. All right, you're not going back to that house. Not tonight. Where am I supposed to go? Safe house. Army's got one downtown. Secure. Off the books. Claire stared at him. You're serious? Do I look like I'm joking? She didn't answer. Haynes started the engine. Come on, let's get you somewhere safe. The safe house was a nondescript apartment in a building that looked like every other building on the block. 3rd floor. 2 bedrooms. Clean, but impersonal. Haynes swept it quickly. Checked the locks, the windows. You'll be fine here, he said. There's food in the fridge, TV works, Wi-Fi passwords on the counter. Claire set her bag down. How long? Until we figure out who was in your house. Could be a day, could be a week. I have to work. No, you don't. I already called the hospital. You're on leave. Claire's jaw tightened. You can't just... I can, and I did. You're a witness in an active investigation, Claire. That means you're protected, whether you like it or not. She wanted to argue, but she was too tired. Haynes moved toward the door. Get some sleep. I'll be back in the morning. Haynes. He stopped. Thanks. He nodded, then left. Claire stood in the middle of the empty apartment, listening to the silence. Then she sat on the couch and cried. Not because she was scared, but because she was so goddamn tired of fighting. Morning came too fast. Claire woke on the couch, still in her scrubs, neck stiff. Sunlight streamed through the blinds. Her phone was buzzing. She grabbed it. Voss. Bennett. We found something. Claire sat up. What? Fingerprints. In your basement. They don't match anyone in the system, but we got DNA from a cigarette butt outside your back door. And? We're running it now. Should have results by tonight. Claire exhaled. Okay. There's something else. Voss paused. Driscoll lawyered up, refuses to talk, but one of his former officers came forward, said Driscoll kept a file, off the books. Every complaint against Holloway, every incident, everything he buried. Claire's pulse quickened. Where's the file? We don't know yet, but if we find it, it's over, for both of them. And if you don't? Voss didn't answer. Claire hung up and stared at the wall. Somewhere, in a drawer, or a safe, or a storage unit, there was proof. Hard evidence that could bring down not just Holloway, but the entire system that protected him. And someone was willing to kill to keep it hidden. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then she did. Bennett. Breathing. Claire's grip tightened. I know it's you. Silence. You think you can scare me? You think breaking into my house is going to make me stop? A laugh, low, cold. You have no idea what you've started. The voice was clear now, not distorted, familiar. Claire's blood ran cold. Holloway. Smart girl. You're going to prison. Maybe, but you won't be around to see it. The line went dead. Claire sat frozen. Then she called Haynes. He just threatened me, directly, on the phone. Haynes swore. Did you record it? No. Doesn't matter. We'll trace the number. Where are you? Safe house. Good. Stay there. Don't leave. Don't open the door for anyone but me. Haynes. I mean it, Claire. This just became a manhunt. He hung up. Claire stood and paced the apartment. Her mind raced. Holloway wasn't just a bad cop anymore. He was a killer, and he was coming for her, but she wasn't going to hide. She grabbed her jacket and walked out the door. The city looked different in daylight, sharper, more exposed. Claire kept her head down as she walked, hands jammed in her pockets, phone on silent. She'd left the safe house 10 minutes ago. Haynes would be pissed when he found out. But she couldn't sit there anymore. Couldn't wait for someone else to act while Holloway circled closer. She had one advantage left. She knew where Driscoll kept his secrets. 2 months ago, before everything imploded, Claire had been at the precinct filing a routine report after a patient assaulted a paramedic. She'd waited in the hallway outside Driscoll's office while he finished a call. The door had been cracked. She'd heard him talking to someone. The file stays where it is, off-site. No one touches it unless I say so. At the time, she hadn't thought much of it. Cops had files, that's what they did. But now she understood. Driscoll had kept records, evidence, insurance. And if Claire could find it before anyone else did, she could end this. She caught a bus downtown, paid cash, sat in the back and watched the streets roll by. The city moved around her like it always had. People going to work, living their lives, unaware that somewhere in the same grid of streets, a man with a badge was planning murder. Claire got off 3 blocks from Driscoll's house and walked the rest. The neighborhood was upper middle class, big lawns, 2-car garages, American flags hanging limp in the still air. The kind of place where people believed the system worked because it worked for them. Driscoll's house was a split-level ranch with white siding and a brick walkway. His car wasn't in the driveway. Neither was his wife's. Claire had checked the precinct parking lot on her way here. Both vehicles were there. She had maybe 2 hours. She circled the block once, no cameras visible, no dogs barking, just suburban silence and the distant hum of a lawnmower. Claire approached from the side yard, moving fast but not running. Running drew attention. She tried the back gate. Unlocked. Amateurs always forgot the back gate. The backyard was small, a deck, a grill covered in a tarp, sliding glass door with a cheap latch. Claire pulled a credit card from her wallet. It wasn't a lockpick, but it worked on latches like this. She'd learned that in Baghdad when supply closets needed opening and no one had keys. The latch gave on the second try. She slipped inside. The house smelled like coffee and laundry detergent, clean, ordinary. Nothing about it said corruption or cover-ups. Just a man's life, a family's space, photos on the wall, kids' drawings on the fridge. Claire moved through the kitchen, living room, hallway. Her heart was hammering, but her hands were steady. She found Driscoll's office at the end. Small, cluttered desk, filing cabinets, a desktop computer that looked 10 years old, awards on the wall, citations. A photo of him shaking hands with the governor. She started with the desk drawers, bills, receipts, old calendars, tax returns. Nothing useful. The filing cabinets were locked. Claire grabbed a letter opener from the desk and jammed it into the keyhole, wiggled it, felt the pins shift, the lock popped. Inside were personnel files, performance reviews, budget reports, all official, all above board. Nothing about Holloway. She checked the closet, boxes of old case files, awards, commendations, a framed photo of Driscoll in uniform, younger, thinner, smiling. Still nothing. Claire stood in the middle of the office, breathing hard. She was missing something. Driscoll had said off-site, but what if he'd lied? What if he kept it close? Her eyes landed on a small bookshelf in the corner. Mostly manuals, training guides, policy handbooks that looked like they'd never been opened, and one leather-bound ledger that looked out of place. Too nice. Too personal. She pulled it out. Inside were handwritten notes, dates, names, incident numbers, badge numbers, complaint reference codes. Every complaint filed against Holloway over the past 6 years. Every one Driscoll had buried. Claire's hand shook as she flipped through the pages. There were annotations in the margins, notes about who'd filed the complaint, whether they'd backed down, whether they'd been threatened, whether they'd been paid off. This wasn't just evidence, it was a blueprint of corruption. She pulled out her phone and started photographing every page. The camera clicked softly, once, twice, 20 times. That's when she heard the car door slam. Claire froze. Footsteps on the walkway. Keys jingling. She shoved the ledger back on the shelf and moved toward the sliding door. The front door opened. "Ray?" A woman's voice. "You home?" Claire's pulse spiked. She slipped out the back, closed the door as quietly as possible, moved across the yard and through the gate. She was 2 houses down when she heard the shout. "Hey, stop!" Claire didn't look back. She ran. Behind her, more shouting, footsteps pounding pavement. A man's voice now, not Driscoll, neighbor, maybe. She cut through a yard, over a fence. Her shoulder slammed into the wood and pain shot down her arm, but she didn't stop. Into an alley. Trash cans, dumpsters, the smell of rotting food. She burst onto a main street and flagged down a taxi that was dropping off an elderly woman. "Drive." The driver blinked. "Where to?" "Just drive." He pulled into traffic. Claire looked back through the rear window. A man stood on the corner, phone to his ear, watching the taxi disappear. No one followed. She sagged against the seat, heart hammering, lungs burning. Her phone buzzed. "Haynes." She answered. "Where the hell are you?" "Downtown. You left the safe house." "Yeah." "Are you out of your mind?" "Probably." Haynes swore. "Claire, this isn't a game. Holloway is actively hunting you. We have credible intelligence that he's armed and planning something." "I know. That's why I went to Driscoll's house." Silence. "You what?" "I found the file. The one he's been hiding. I have photos of everything." More silence. Then, "Send them to me. Now." Claire pulled up the photos and forwarded them. Her phone chimed as they uploaded. 43 images. Every page. Every note. Every name. Haynes exhaled. "Jesus Christ, this is it. This is everything we need." "Good, because I'm pretty sure Driscoll's wife just called the cops on me." "What?" "I broke into his house, Haynes. She came home early, saw me running." "God damn it, Claire." "I know, but it was worth it." Haynes didn't respond right away. When he did, his voice was low, controlled, the voice he'd used when giving orders in combat. Where are you right now? In a cab, heading toward the hospital. Don't go there. Go to the federal building, corner of 5th and Main. I'll meet you there in 20 minutes. Why the federal building? Because we're not trusting the local cops anymore. We're going federal. This is a civil rights case now, federal jurisdiction. And once the FBI gets involved, Driscoll and Holloway are done. The line went dead. Claire leaned her head back and closed her eyes. Her whole body ached. Her hands were still shaking, but she'd done it. She had the proof. The federal building was a concrete fortress downtown, all sharp angles and bulletproof glass. Metal detectors at every entrance, armed guards, the kind of place that didn't mess around. Claire paid the driver and walked inside. Security checkpoint, metal detector, ID scan. They patted her down, checked her bag. She had nothing but her phone and wallet. Haynes was waiting on the other side. He didn't say anything, just grabbed her arm and steered her toward the elevator. They rode up in silence. 12th floor. The hallway was fluorescent bright and institutional, government beige. Haynes led her to a conference room where 2 people were waiting. One was a woman in a dark suit, FBI badge clipped to her belt. Late 30s, sharp eyes, hair pulled back so tight it looked painful. The other was a man in his 50s. Gray suit, tired face. The kind of face that had seen too many cases like this. Agent Rachel Kim, the woman said, FBI Civil Rights Division. This is Assistant U.S. Attorney Michael Brennan. Claire shook their hands. Claire Bennett. We know who you are, Kim said. Have a seat. Claire sat. Haynes sat next to her. The chair was hard plastic, uncomfortable, probably intentional. Kim pulled out a tablet. Colonel Haynes forwarded us the photos you took from Captain Driscoll's residence. We've reviewed them. If these are authentic, they are, Claire said, then we have enough to file federal charges. Conspiracy to deprive civil rights under color of law. Obstruction of justice. Witness tampering. Possibly RICO if we can prove systematic corruption. Brennan leaned forward. But we need your testimony. On the record, everything you saw, everything you experienced, every interaction with Holloway and Driscoll, every threat, every intimidation tactic, every moment where they abused their authority. Claire nodded. Fine. It won't be easy, Brennan continued. Their lawyers will come after you hard. They'll try to discredit you, paint you as unstable, vindictive, a disgruntled troublemaker with an axe to grind. They'll dig into your past, your military service, your medical records if they can get them. They'll look for anything they can use to make you look unreliable. Let them try. Kim's expression softened, just slightly. You understand what you're signing up for? This will be national news. Your face will be everywhere. Your life will be dissected. Every mistake you ever made will be dragged into the light. People will hate you. They'll send you death threats. They'll call you a liar, a traitor, a cop hater. People already hate me. Not like this. Claire met her eyes. I don't care. Kim studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. All right, let's get started. The deposition took 4 hours. Claire walked them through everything. The vandalism, the stops, the harassment, the unlawful search attempts, the physical contact, the break-in, Holloway's threats, Driscoll's pattern of covering up complaints, the other women, Melissa Tran. They recorded every word, took notes, asked follow-up questions, pressed for details, times, dates, exact quotes when she could remember them. By the time it was over, Claire's throat was raw. Her voice was hoarse. She'd gone through 3 bottles of water. Brennan closed his folder. We'll have arrest warrants by tomorrow morning, both Holloway and Driscoll. Federal custody. No bail. They'll be arraigned within 72 hours. What about the murder investigation? Claire asked. Melissa Tran? That's still local jurisdiction, Kim said. Detective Ortiz is handling it. But if we can tie Holloway to her death through the stalking pattern documented in Driscoll's file, we can add it to the federal case. Make it part of the conspiracy charge. And if you can't, then the local DA handles it separately. Either way, he's done. Claire stood. Her legs were stiff. What happens to me now? You go back to the safe house, Haynes said, and you stay there until this is over. How long? As long as it takes. Claire wanted to argue, but she didn't have the energy. She left the building with Haynes and got into his car. They drove in silence through downtown, past the precinct where Driscoll still worked, past the courthouse where he'd soon be arraigned, past the streets where Holloway had terrorized women for years. Halfway to the safe house, Haynes spoke. "You did good today." Claire didn't answer. "I mean it. What you did, breaking into Driscoll's house, it was reckless and stupid and illegal. But it worked. You got us what we needed. Without that file, this case would have taken months, maybe years. And they would have destroyed evidence, intimidated witnesses, maybe gotten away with it. That's supposed to make me feel better? No, it's supposed to remind you that you're not helpless. You took control. You fought back. And now they're going to pay for what they did." Claire looked out the window. "It doesn't feel like winning. It never does. Not at first. But give it time." They reached the safe house. Haynes parked but didn't turn off the engine. "Get some rest," he said. "I'll be back in the morning with an update." Claire got out, walked to the building, climbed the stairs. Her whole body felt heavy. Inside, the apartment was exactly as she'd left it. Empty, quiet. The TV still on mute. Her jacket still draped over the couch. She locked the door, set her phone on the counter, checked the windows. The fire escape was still bolted. Then she collapsed on the couch and stared at the ceiling. Somewhere across the city, Holloway was still free, still dangerous, still planning. And somewhere, Driscoll was probably destroying whatever evidence he hadn't already hidden. Claire closed her eyes. Tomorrow, she told herself. Tomorrow they'd arrest them both. Tomorrow it would be over. But deep down, she knew better. Men like Holloway didn't go quietly. The call came at 3 a.m. Claire jolted awake, disoriented. Her phone was buzzing on the coffee table. The screen was too bright in the darkness. Voss. "Bennett, turn on the news. Now." Claire grabbed the remote, flipped on the TV. The screen flickered to life. Breaking news. Red banner across the bottom. "Massive manhunt underway tonight after former police officer Dane Holloway allegedly opened fire on federal agents attempting to serve an arrest warrant at his residence. 2 agents were wounded in the exchange. Holloway fled the scene and is considered armed and extremely dangerous." Claire's breath stopped. The screen cut to aerial footage, helicopters, searchlights sweeping across neighborhoods, police cars blocking intersections, SWAT teams in full gear surrounding a house with shattered windows. But Holloway was gone. Voss's voice crackled through the phone. "He ran. Shot 2 agents on his way out the door. Both are alive, but one's critical. Chest wound. They're operating now." "Where is he?" "We don't know. He disabled his phone, dumped his car 3 miles from his house in a grocery store parking lot, switched plates with another vehicle. He's on foot, or he stole another car. Either way, he knows the city. He knows how to disappear." Claire's stomach twisted. "What about Driscoll?" "In custody. Arrested an hour ago at his home without incident. He's being transferred to federal holding right now. But Holloway..." Voss paused. "Claire, he knows you're the one who gave us the file. He knows you're the reason the feds came after him. He knows you broke into Driscoll's house." "How?" "Driscoll's wife identified you from security footage. Neighbor got your description. Once that hit the system, Holloway would have heard. He still has friends in the department." Claire stood, started pacing. "So he's coming for me." "We think so. Which is why I need you to stay exactly where you are. Don't leave. Don't open the door for anyone. We've got units en route to secure the building." "How long until they get here?" 10 minutes, maybe less." Claire moved to the window, looked down at the street. Empty. Dark. "What if he gets here first?" "He won't. We've got eyes on every approach. Cameras, patrols. He can't get close without us seeing him." "You said that about the safe house." Voss didn't answer. Claire hung up. She moved through the apartment, checking locks, windows. The fire escape outside the bedroom was bolted shut. Good. The front door had a deadbolt and a chain, both engaged. She grabbed a kitchen knife from the drawer, 8-inch blade. Not much against a gun, but better than nothing. Then she turned off all the lights and sat in the dark, waiting. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Her phone buzzed. "Haynes. You okay?" "For now." Patrol units are 2 minutes out. FBI is mobilizing a protective detail. You'll have agents outside your door within 15 minutes. Just hold on. Claire didn't respond. She was listening. To the silence. To the sound of her own breathing. To the faint creak of the floorboard outside the apartment door. Her pulse spiked. She stood, moved toward the door, looked through the peephole. Nothing. But the hallway light was off. It had been on when she came home. She remembered. Fluorescent. Buzzing slightly. Now it was dark. Claire backed away from the door. Her phone buzzed again. Text from Haynes. Units are outside. Heading up now. Relief flooded through her. Then the door exploded inward. Wood splintered. The deadbolt ripped free from the frame. The chain snapped like thread. A man filled the doorway. Holloway. He was bigger than she remembered, broader. His face was streaked with dirt and sweat. His eyes were wild, bloodshot, the eyes of someone who'd stopped caring about consequences. And he had a gun, not a service weapon, something bigger, heavier. A .45 maybe. You ruined my life, he said. Claire didn't move, didn't speak. Her hand tightened on the knife behind her back. Holloway stepped inside, kicked the door shut behind him. The sound echoed. All I wanted was a little respect, a little fear. That's how you survive in this job. You make people afraid. You make them know you're in charge. But you... He spat the word. You had to be a hero. You killed Melissa Tran. She wouldn't shut up either. Holloway's voice was flat, emotionless. Kept calling, kept filing complaints, kept talking to lawyers. I gave her chances, multiple chances, but she wouldn't stop. So you murdered her. I solved a problem. Claire's grip tightened on the knife. You're not getting out of this building. Holloway laughed, harsh, bitter. You think I care? You think I'm walking out of here? I'm done. My career's over. My life's over. Because of you. He raised the gun. Claire moved. She threw herself sideways as the shot rang out. Deafening. The bullet punched through the wall where she'd been standing. Plaster exploded. She hit the floor hard. Rolled, came up swinging. The knife caught Holloway's forearm. He roared, backhanded her across the face. Stars burst behind her eyes. Pain exploded through her jaw. She stumbled backward into the kitchen counter. Holloway lunged. Claire grabbed a lamp from the end table and smashed it into his skull. Glass shattered. Blood sprayed. He went down on one knee. She scrambled for the door. Boots pounded up the stairs. Voices shouting, "Federal agents! Drop the weapon!" Holloway staggered to his feet. Blood streamed down his face from a gash above his eye. He raised the gun again, not at the agents, at Claire. "Don't!" she screamed. His finger tightened on the trigger. 4 shots rang out in rapid succession. Holloway's body jerked, once, twice, 3 times. His chest bloomed red. The gun dropped from his hand. He collapsed. Blood pooled beneath him, spreading, dark, too much blood. FBI agents swarmed the apartment. Someone grabbed Claire, pulled her away from the body. "You hurt?" She shook her head, couldn't speak. "You sure?" She nodded. Agent Kim appeared. Her suit was wrinkled. Her face was tight. "Claire, look at me." Claire looked. "It's over. He's dead. You're safe." Claire nodded, but the words didn't register. All she could see was Holloway's body, the blood, the gun still clutched in his hand even in death. The man who'd tried to destroy her, dead on the floor of a safe house that hadn't been safe at all. Kim touched her shoulder. "We need to get you out of here. Paramedics are downstairs. You need to be checked out." Claire let them lead her away. Behind her, crime scene techs were already moving in, taking photos, measuring blood spatter, bagging evidence, processing the end of Dane Holloway. She sat in the back of an ambulance while a paramedic checked her vitals, shined a light in her eyes, asked if she felt dizzy, nauseous, disoriented. She did, but not from the hit. Haynes appeared. His face was pale. "Jesus Christ, Claire." "I'm okay." "You're not okay. He almost killed you." "But he didn't." Haynes crouched in front of her. "You fought back, again. That takes guts. It takes survival instinct. That's not the same thing. It is when the other option is dying." Claire looked past him, at the building, at the agents moving in and out, at the body bag being wheeled down the stairs on a gurney. Is it really over? She asked. For Holloway? Yeah, he's done. And Driscoll? In custody. Federal holding. He's not getting out. Brennan says the evidence is overwhelming. He'll plead guilty. He has to. There's no other option. Claire exhaled, long and slow. What about the others, the women he hurt? They'll testify at Driscoll's sentencing hearing, at the civil rights trial. And they'll get justice. Because of you. Because you refused to back down. Claire didn't feel like a hero. She felt exhausted, hollowed out, like something had been carved out of her chest and nothing had filled the space. Haynes stood. Come on, let's get you somewhere you can actually rest. The new safe house was outside the city. A small cabin in the woods surrounded by trees and silence. No neighbors, no streetlights, just forest and darkness and the sound of wind through branches. Claire spent 3 days there, sleeping, eating when Haynes forced her to, trying to process everything that had happened. On the 4th day, Kim and Brennan showed up. They sat at the kitchen table, laid out the case like pieces on a chessboard. Driscoll had pled guilty that morning. Full cooperation in exchange for a reduced sentence, 20 years in federal prison, no parole eligibility for at least 15. The file Claire had stolen, legally inadmissible as evidence because of how it was obtained, but devastating in the court of public opinion, had been leaked to the press. Someone in the FBI. Someone who knew what it meant. Every news outlet in the country was running stories, editorials, investigations. The department was being torn apart. The mayor had resigned. The police chief had been forced out. Internal Affairs was being gutted and rebuilt from scratch under federal oversight. And the women, Holloway's victims, were finally being heard. You did this, Kim said. You started it. And now it's changing everything. Claire stared at the papers spread across the table. Names, dates, cases. It doesn't bring Melissa Tran back. No, but it might save the next person. And the one after that. Claire nodded slowly. Brennan leaned forward. We're going to need you for the trial. Driscoll's sentencing hearing, public testimony. The judge needs to hear from the victims. Needs to understand the scope of what happened. Fine. And the media is going to want interviews. Your story, no interviews. Kim blinked. Claire, this is your moment. You can shape the narrative. Make sure people understand what really happened. I don't want a narrative. I want to go back to my life. You can't. Not yet. Not until what? Claire's voice rose. Until I've been paraded around as the brave nurse who stood up to corruption? Until I'm a symbol instead of a person? Until strangers think they know me because they saw me on TV? Kim and Brennan exchanged a glance. We're not asking you to be a symbol, Brennan said carefully. We're asking you to be a witness, to stand in front of a judge and tell the truth, that's all. I've been a witness. I gave you everything you needed. And now we need you to say it out loud, in court, under oath. So the world knows what happened, so it can't be buried, so it can't happen again. Claire closed her eyes. How long? 3 months. Maybe 4. Driscoll's sentencing is in 6 weeks. After that, there might be civil suits, depositions, more testimony. And then? Then you're done. You go home, you go back to work, you rebuild. Claire opened her eyes. Promise me something. What? Promise me that when this is over, you'll leave me alone. No more interviews. No more testimony. No more cameras. I want my life back. Kim nodded. You have my word. Claire stood. Then I'll do it. But on my terms. No press conferences, no book deals, no documentary crews, just the trial. That's it. Brennan stood and offered his hand. Deal. Claire shook it. But as they left, she couldn't shake the feeling that her life would never really be hers again. That some part of her had been claimed by this case, by these men, by the system that had tried to destroy her, and she'd never get it back. That night, Claire sat on the cabin's porch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the stars. Her phone buzzed. A text from Renee. Saw the news. Holy shit. You okay? Claire typed back. Yeah, I will be. Everyone at the hospital's talking about you. In a good way. They're calling you a badass. Great. I'm serious. You're a legend. Dr. Patel says he always knew you were tougher than you looked. Claire didn't respond. She set the phone down and pulled the blanket tighter. Somewhere in the distance, an owl hooted. The woods were dark and deep and endless. And for the first time in weeks, Claire felt something close to peace. But it didn't last. Because the next morning, she got a call from Detective Ortiz. "We found something." Claire's stomach dropped. "What?" "A storage unit. Rented under a fake name. Holloway's been using it for years, since before he even joined the force." "What's in it?" Ortiz's voice was grim. "Trophies. Photos. Personal items taken from women he stalked. Jewelry. Driver's licenses. Keys. Including items belonging to Melissa Tran." Claire's breath caught. "How many?" 17 women that we can identify. There might be more we haven't matched yet." The number hung in the air. 17 women. 17 lives Holloway had invaded, controlled, violated, destroyed, and Claire had only been one of them. "There's more," Ortiz said. "We found files, notes, plans, surveillance logs, and—" She paused. "He wasn't working alone." Claire's blood went cold. "What do you mean?" "I mean, he had help. Someone inside the department. Someone who fed him information, addresses, work schedules, patrol routes. Someone who helped him avoid getting caught." The line went silent. Claire's hand tightened on the phone. "Who?" "We don't know yet. The files are coded. Initials. Badge numbers that don't match anyone currently on the force. But we will find out. And when we do—" Ortiz's voice hardened. "This thing goes deeper than we thought." "How deep?" "Deep enough that Driscoll might not be the only captain involved. Deep enough that people are already lawyering up. Deep enough that the FBI is expanding the investigation." Claire stood, walked to the edge of the porch. The trees swayed in the wind. "What do you need from me?" "Right now, nothing. Just stay safe. Stay visible. And if anyone approaches you, anyone you don't know, anyone claiming to be a cop or a lawyer or a journalist, you call me immediately." "You think someone's going to come after me?" "I think Holloway's dead and Driscoll's in prison. But whoever else was involved, they're still out there, and they know you're the one who brought everything down." Ortiz hung up. Claire stared at the phone. Holloway was dead. Driscoll was in prison. But the system that protected them, the network that enabled them, covered for them, helped them hunt, was still alive. And it was watching. Claire turned and looked back at the cabin, at the lights glowing warm through the windows, at the woods pressing in from all sides. She thought about the women, 17 of them, maybe more. She thought about Melissa Tran, dead in her apartment, a case closed as suicide until someone looked closer. She thought about the file, the ledger, the evidence that proved it wasn't just one bad cop or one corrupt captain. It was a system, and systems didn't die when you cut off one head. They grew new ones. Claire's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Silence, then breathing, then a voice, male, calm, cold. "You should have stayed quiet." The line went dead. Claire didn't sleep that night. She sat in the cabin with every light on, the knife from the kitchen on the coffee table, her phone next to it, waiting for another call that didn't come. By dawn, her nerves were shot, but her mind was clear. Whoever had called her knew where she was, knew she was isolated, knew she was vulnerable, which meant someone was leaking information. When Haynes arrived at 8 with coffee and bagels she didn't want, she told him about the call. His expression went dark. "You recorded it?" "No, it was too fast." "Number?" "Blocked." Haynes pulled out his phone, made a call. "Kim, we've got a problem." He put it on speaker. Kim's voice came through tight. "What kind of problem?" "Someone called Bennett last night, threatened her, male voice, blocked number." "Son of a bitch." Kim's end went quiet except for the sound of typing. "We'll trace it. See if we can triangulate the cell tower." "When did it come in?" Claire checked her phone. 9:47 p.m. "All right, give me an hour." Kim paused. "Claire, you still at the cabin?" "Yeah?" "Don't leave. We're moving you again. Somewhere more secure." "How many safe houses do you have?" "Enough." Kim hung up. Haynes set his phone down, looked at Claire. "You should eat something." "I'm not hungry." "Eat anyway." She took a bagel, picked at it. Her hands were steady, but her stomach was knotted. Haynes sat across from her. You holding up? Do I have a choice? No, but I'm asking anyway. Claire set the bagel down. I'm tired, Marcus. I'm tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of being treated like I'm the problem when all I did was tell the truth. I know. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, Holloway's dead and Driscoll's in prison, and I'm still the one looking over my shoulder. Haynes leaned forward. That's going to change. We're going to find whoever else is involved. We're going to burn this whole thing down. But I need you to stay alive long enough to see it happen. Claire met his eyes. What if I don't want to wait anymore? What are you talking about? I'm talking about going public, doing interviews, putting my face on every screen in the country so whoever's out there knows they can't touch me without the whole world watching. Haynes shook his head. That's a bad idea. Why? You said yourself that visibility is protection. Visibility is protection when you control the narrative. Right now, you don't. The department's leaking stories, painting you as a troublemaker, a glory seeker, someone with a grudge. You go on TV before we've got the full case locked down, they'll rip you apart. They're already ripping me apart. Not like this. Not nationally. Haynes stood. I get it. You want to fight back. But this is chess, not boxing. You don't swing wild. You wait for the opening. Claire didn't answer. 2 hours later, Kim called back. We traced the call. Burner phone, activated yesterday. Bought at a convenience store in South Bend with cash. No surveillance footage. Dead end, Claire said. Not entirely. The phone pinged off a tower 3 miles from the cabin. Whoever called you was close. Claire's blood ran cold. Kim continued. We're sweeping the area now, checking for vehicles, footprints, anything. But whoever it was, they knew where you were, which means we've got a leak. Haynes swore under his breath. We're moving you today, Kim said. New location, tighter security. And we're running a counter-intel op on everyone who knew your location. FBI personnel only, no local PD, no one outside the task force. How many people knew? Claire asked. 12, including me and Brennan. 12 people. 12 chances for someone to talk, to sell her location, to tip off whoever wanted her silenced. When do we move? Haynes asked. 1 hour. I'm sending a team now. Stay inside until they arrive. The line went dead. Claire stood, walked to the window. The woods looked peaceful, birds in the trees, sunlight filtering through branches. But somewhere out there, someone was watching. The transfer happened fast. 2 black SUVs, 4 agents, body armor, rifles. They swept the cabin, loaded Claire's bag, and had her in a vehicle within 10 minutes. No one spoke during the drive. They took back roads, changed vehicles twice. Claire lost track of where they were going. The new location was a fortified apartment in the city. 10th floor, security cameras, controlled access. 2 agents stationed outside the door 24/7. Kim was waiting inside. This is as secure as it gets, she said. No one knows you're here except the people in this room. Claire looked around. The apartment was sterile, functional, a cage with better furniture. How long? She asked. Until we find the leak, or until Driscoll's sentencing, whichever comes first. That's 3 weeks. I know. Claire sat on the couch. I can't do this for 3 weeks. You don't have a choice. There's always a choice. Kim sat across from her. Claire, I need you to understand something. Whoever's coming after you isn't some street thug. They're organized, connected, and they're willing to kill to protect themselves. You step outside this apartment, you're exposed, and I can't protect you if you won't let me. Claire didn't answer. Kim stood. I'll be back tomorrow. Try to get some rest. She left. Claire sat in the silence, alone again, protected, isolated, safe, trapped. Her phone buzzed. Renee. You alive? Claire typed back. Yeah. Can't talk much. Heard about Holloway. Jesus, you okay? I'm fine. Liar. Claire smiled despite herself. Maybe. Hospital's a mess without you. Everyone's asking when you're coming back. I don't know. Well, hurry up. We need you. Claire set the phone down, stared at the ceiling. She'd spent her whole life being needed, in the army, at the hospital, by patients who didn't know her name but trusted her to save their lives. But now she was needed for something else, as a witness, as a symbol, as proof that the system could be challenged, and she wasn't sure she wanted that weight. The next morning, Brennan showed up with a thick folder. Driscoll's lawyer reached out, he said. Wants to negotiate. Claire sat up. Negotiate what? He already pled guilty. Sentencing. He's offering full cooperation, names, dates, evidence, everything he knows about the network. In exchange for what? Reduced time. 10 years instead of 20. Claire's jaw tightened. No. Brennan blinked. No? He covered up abuse for 6 years. He enabled a murderer. He destroyed evidence. He intimidated victims. And now he wants a deal? Claire, if he gives us the network, then you find another way to get it. You investigate. You dig. You build the case without rewarding him for being a coward. Brennan set the folder down. It's not that simple. It is that simple. He doesn't get to trade information for freedom. That's not justice. That's just another cover-up. The court might not see it that way. Then I'll tell the court exactly what I think during my victim impact statement, in front of the judge, on the record. Brennan studied her. You're angry. Damn right I'm angry. Good. Use that, channel it, but don't let it make you reckless. Claire stood. I'm not being reckless. I'm being clear. Driscoll doesn't get to walk away from this. None of them do. Brennan nodded slowly. All right. I'll tell his lawyer the deal's off. Good. He left. Claire paced the apartment. Her hands were shaking again, not from fear, from rage. She'd played by the rules, told the truth, trusted the system, and now the system wanted to reward the man who'd broken it. Her phone rang. Ortiz. We identified 3 of the women from the storage unit. All of them filed complaints against Holloway. All of them were ignored. One of them moved out of state. Another changed her name. And the third? Ortiz hesitated. Suicide. 2 years ago. Her family said she'd been depressed, paranoid, thought someone was following her. Claire closed her eyes. Did anyone investigate? No, it was ruled accidental overdose. Jesus. Yeah. Ortiz's voice was tight. But here's the thing. We found a pattern in the surveillance logs. Holloway wasn't just stalking these women randomly. He was targeting them based on complaints. If you filed against him, you became a target. And Driscoll buried the complaint so no one would see the pattern. Exactly. Which means this wasn't just corruption. It was systematic retaliation. Claire sat down. Does the FBI know? Kim's reviewing everything now. She's building a RICO case, conspiracy, obstruction, pattern of abuse under color of law. If it sticks, everyone involved is looking at decades. How many people? At least 6 officers. Maybe more, we're still digging. Claire's mind raced. What do you need from me? Same thing as before. Testimony and patience. This is going to take time. I don't have time. You do. Because you're alive. And that means you get to see this through. Ortiz hung up. Claire stared at the phone. Alive. For now. But for how long? 3 days later, the story broke. Not from the FBI, not from the U.S. Attorney's Office. From the press. Someone leaked the storage unit findings. Photos. Evidence logs. Names of the victims. It hit the national news at noon. Claire watched it unfold on TV. Reporters standing outside the precinct, outside Holloway's house, outside the storage facility. Interviews with the victims' families, tears, anger, demands for answers. The police union issued a statement, condemned Holloway, distanced themselves from Driscoll, called for a full investigation, but the damage was done. By evening, protests had started. People marching outside City Hall, signs demanding accountability, reform, justice. Claire watched it all from the fortified apartment, alone, invisible, the woman who'd started it all. Her phone rang. Kim. You see the news? Yeah. We're trying to trace the leak. Someone inside the task force talked to the press. Does it matter? Kim went quiet. What do you mean? I mean the truth's out there now. People know. Isn't that what we wanted? Not like this. Not uncontrolled. Now we've got defense attorneys screaming about tainted jury pools, judges threatening to throw out evidence. This could blow the entire case. Or it could force people to act. Claire, I'm serious. You wanted to do this quietly, behind closed doors, nice and clean, but that's how they got away with it in the first place. Maybe messy is what it takes. Kim didn't answer right away. When she did, her voice was measured. I understand your frustration, but we need to control the narrative, and right now, we don't. Then maybe you should let me talk. Absolutely not. Why? Because you're afraid I'll say the wrong thing? Because I'm afraid you'll say the right thing at the wrong time and get yourself killed. The line went dead. Claire set the phone down, looked at the TV, at the protesters, at the faces of women who'd been silenced. She thought about Melissa Tran, about the 17 women in the storage unit, about every person who'd tried to speak up and been crushed. She thought about the neighbor who'd called her a thief, about Holloway grabbing her wrist, about Driscoll's smug face in the photos. And she made a decision. The next morning, Claire called a reporter. Not just any reporter. Vanessa Ruiz, investigative journalist, national platform. The kind of person who didn't back down. Ms. Ruiz, my name is Claire Bennett. I think we should talk. They met in a coffee shop downtown. Public. Crowded. Safe. Ruiz was younger than Claire expected. Early 30s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. You're taking a risk, Ruiz said. I know. The FBI is going to be pissed. I know that too. Ruiz pulled out a recorder. Why now? Claire leaned forward. Because the system wants me to stay quiet, to wait for the trial, to let the lawyers handle it. But I've been quiet my whole life, and it didn't protect anyone. You think going public will? I think people deserve to know what happened. Not the sanitized version, not the legal version. The truth. Ruiz pressed record. Then let's start at the beginning. Claire talked for 2 hours. She told Ruiz everything, the vandalism, the harassment, the break-in, the threats, Holloway's attack, the storage unit, the network, Driscoll's cover-ups. She didn't hold back, didn't soften it, didn't make herself sound heroic. She told it like it was, messy, terrifying, real. When she finished, Ruiz turned off the recorder. This is going to cause an earthquake, she said. Good. You're sure you want to do this? Once it's out there, you can't take it back. Claire nodded. I'm sure. Ruiz stood. Give me 48 hours. I'll have it ready. She left. Claire sat in the coffee shop for another 10 minutes, watching people, living their lives, unaware that everything was about to change. Then her phone rang. Haynes, where are you? Out. Out where? Coffee shop, downtown. You left the safe house. I needed air. God damn it, Claire. I also just gave an interview to Vanessa Ruiz. Silence. Then, you did what? You heard me. Do you have any idea what you just did? Yeah. I took control. Haynes's voice dropped, cold, furious. You just painted a target on your back. Again. The target was already there. Not like this. Not nationally. Every cop with a grudge, every conspiracy nut, every lunatic with an agenda is going to know your name, your face, where you work, where you live. They already knew. Not like this. Claire stood. I'm done hiding, Marcus. I'm done waiting for someone else to fix this. I'm done being a victim. You're not a victim. You're a witness. And witnesses stay alive by staying quiet until it's time to testify. Maybe I'm tired of waiting for permission to speak. Haynes exhaled, long and slow. Where are you right now? I told you, coffee shop. Which one? Claire looked around. Benson's, on 4th. Stay there. I'm sending someone to pick you up. I don't need... Stay there. He hung up. Claire paid for her coffee and walked outside. The street was busy. Lunch rush, people everywhere. She didn't see the car until it was too late. Black sedan, tinted windows. It jumped the curb and screeched to a stop 10 feet from her. The back door flew open. A man got out, tall, broad, suit and tie, FBI badge on his belt. But Claire didn't recognize him. Miss Bennett, get in. Who are you? Agent Dawson. I'm with Colonel Haynes. He sent me to bring you in. Claire didn't move. Show me your credentials. Dawson pulled out a badge, FBI, looked real, but something felt wrong. "Call Haynes," Claire said. "Let me verify." Dawson's expression didn't change. "Ma'am, we don't have time. There's been a credible threat. We need to move you now." "Then you won't mind if I call him?" She pulled out her phone. Dawson grabbed her wrist. Claire's training kicked in. She twisted, broke his grip, stepped back. "Don't touch me." Dawson reached inside his jacket. Claire ran. Behind her, Dawson shouted. Footsteps pounded pavement. She cut through the crowd, shoved past people, ignored the shouts. A hand grabbed her shoulder. She spun. Elbow strike, connected with something soft. The man grunted. "Let go." Claire kept running. She turned a corner, saw a subway entrance, ran down the stairs. Behind her, more shouting. She jumped the turnstile. Security yelled, but she didn't stop. A train was pulling in. She squeezed through the closing doors. The train lurched forward. Through the window, she saw Dawson on the platform, staring, not chasing, just watching. The train pulled into the tunnel. Claire sagged against the pole. Her heart was hammering. Her hands were shaking. She pulled out her phone, called Haynes. "Where are you?" "Subway. Red line. Someone just tried to grab me." "What?" "He said he was FBI, said you sent him, but it was wrong. It felt wrong." Haynes swore. Description. Tall, white, 40, maybe, dark suit, said his name was Dawson. "We don't have an agent, Dawson." Claire's blood went cold. "Then who was he?" "I don't know, but I'm finding out. Where are you now?" "On a train, heading north." "Get off at the next stop. Go to the federal building. Don't talk to anyone. Don't trust anyone. I'll meet you there in 20 minutes. The train stopped. Claire got off, climbed the stairs, emerged onto a street she didn't recognize. She walked fast, head down, checking over her shoulder every few steps. The federal building was 6 blocks away. She made it 3 before the car pulled up beside her. Not the black sedan, a different vehicle. White SUV. The window rolled down. Kim. "Get in." Claire hesitated. "It's me, Claire. Get in the damn car." Claire got in. Kim pulled into traffic. "Haynes called me. Someone tried to grab you?" "Yeah." "You get a photo?" "No. It happened too fast." Kim's jaw was tight. "We've got a serious problem." "No kidding." "I mean bigger than we thought. Dawson, if that's even his real name, knew where you were, knew you'd left the safe house. That means someone's tracking you. Phone, credit card, something." Claire pulled out her phone. "You think it's bugged?" "I think we're not taking any chances." Kim held out her hand. "Give it to me." Claire handed it over. Kim rolled down the window and threw it into the street. "Hey, you'll get a new one. Clean, secure." Kim turned a corner. "Right now, you're off the grid. No phone, no credit cards, no trail." "How am I supposed to?" "You don't. You stay in protective custody until this is over. No exceptions." They pulled into an underground garage. Kim parked, led Claire to an elevator. Up, down a hallway, into a room with no windows. Haynes was waiting. "You okay?" Claire nodded. "Tell me exactly what happened." She walked him through it. The interview, the coffee shop, the car, the fake agent. Haynes listened, didn't interrupt. When she finished, he turned to Kim. "We've got a mole." "I know." "Not in the task force. In the bureau." Kim's expression went hard. "That's a hell of an accusation. You got a better explanation? Someone knew where she was, knew she'd be alone, sent someone to grab her with fake credentials. Could have been local PD, someone dirty. Local PD doesn't have access to our surveillance, doesn't know our safe house locations, doesn't know our movements." Haynes stepped closer. "Someone inside is feeding information, and if we don't find them, Claire's dead." Kim pulled out her phone, made a call. "Brennan, we've got a situation." She stepped out. Haynes looked at Claire. "You should have stayed in the safe house." "I know." "You should have called me before doing that interview." "I know." "And you definitely shouldn't have left the apartment alone." "I know." Claire's voice cracked. "I know I screwed up, but I'm tired of being told what to do, tired of hiding, tired of letting other people decide my life." Haynes didn't answer. Claire sat down. I thought if I went public, it would protect me, make me too visible to touch. It did the opposite. You made yourself a target. I was already a target.
Not like this. Claire closed her eyes. So what now? Now we find the mole, and we finish this.
The investigation moved fast after that. Kim brought in a counterintelligence team. They swept phones, computers, email accounts, looking for the leak. Within 24 hours, they found it. Not an FBI agent, a clerk, records department, 22 years old, student loans, gambling debts. He'd been selling information for 6 months, safe house locations, witness identities, case files, to a lawyer named Gerald Price. Price represented 3 of the officers under investigation, including 2 who'd worked with Holloway. When the FBI raided Price's office, they found everything: emails, wire transfers, instructions, and a list, 17 names, women Holloway had targeted. Claire's name was at the top, crossed out in red. Kim showed her the list in a windowless conference room. This is a kill list, Kim said quietly. Holloway made it, but Price was coordinating. Claire stared at the paper, at her name, at the red line through it. He tried to have me killed. Yes. And the others? We're putting them in protective custody now, all of them. Claire looked up. What happens to Price? He's under arrest, conspiracy to commit murder, obstruction, witness tampering. He's looking at life. Good. Kim sat down. Claire, I need you to understand something. This network, it's not just a few dirty cops, it's lawyers, clerks, people in positions of trust, and they're willing to kill to protect themselves.
I know. Do you? Because this doesn't end with arrests. It ends with trials, testimony, years of litigation, and you're going to be at the center of it. Claire met her eyes. I'm ready. Are you? I survived Holloway. I survived the fake agent. I'll survive this too. Kim nodded slowly. Then let's make sure they don't. Driscoll's sentencing hearing was held 3 weeks later.
The courtroom was packed. Press, victims, activists, FBI agents lining the walls. Driscoll sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, shackled, pale, smaller than Claire remembered. The judge was a woman in her 60s, gray hair, steel eyes. This court will hear victim impact statements before sentencing. First up, Claire Bennett. Claire stood, walked to the podium. Her hands were steady. She looked at Driscoll. He wouldn't meet her eyes. My name is Claire Bennett, she said. I'm a nurse, a veteran, and for 6 years Captain Raymond Driscoll allowed Officer Dane Holloway to terrorize me and 17 other women. The courtroom was silent. He didn't just ignore complaints. He buried them. He threatened victims. He destroyed evidence. And when one of those women ended up dead, he did nothing. Driscoll's lawyer started to stand. The judge waved him down. Claire continued. I'm not here to ask for mercy. I'm here to ask for accountability, because what Captain Driscoll did wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. And every day he chose to protect a predator instead of the people he swore to serve. She paused. The prosecution is asking for 20 years. I'm asking for more, because 20 years doesn't bring back Melissa Tran. It doesn't undo the trauma he caused. It doesn't fix the system he helped break. Claire stepped back. But it's a start. The judge nodded. Thank you, Ms. Bennett. 4 more women spoke. Then the judge called for a recess. When they returned, the judge read the sentence. Captain Raymond Driscoll, you are hereby sentenced to 25 years in federal prison, no possibility of parole. The courtroom erupted. Cheers, applause, Driscoll's wife sobbing. Driscoll was led away. He looked at Claire once as he passed. She didn't look away. Outside, the press swarmed. Claire walked past them without stopping. Haynes was waiting by a car. You did good in there. It's not enough. It's a start. They drove in silence. Then Haynes spoke. The investigation's expanding. We've identified 12 more officers, 6 more lawyers. The whole department's under federal oversight. Good. And Vanessa Ruiz's article went live this morning. It's everywhere. Claire pulled out her new phone, opened the browser. The headline filled the screen. The nurse who took down a police empire, how one woman exposed systemic corruption. Below it, Claire's face. And below that, the faces of 17 women, the ones Holloway had hunted. The ones Driscoll had failed. The ones who'd finally been heard. Claire closed the phone. "They're calling you a hero," Haynes said. "I'm not." "Then what are you?" Claire looked out the window, at the city rolling past, at the people living their lives. "A survivor," she said, "just like them." But that night, alone in the secure apartment, Claire's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then she did. Silence. Then breathing. Then a voice she'd heard before. Cold. Calm. Familiar. "You think it's over, but you have no idea how deep this goes." The line went dead. Claire sat frozen, because she recognized the voice this time. It belonged to someone she'd trusted, someone inside the investigation, and they'd just told her the truth. This wasn't over. It had only just begun. Claire played the voicemail 3 times before she was certain. The voice belonged to Agent Rachel Kim. Cold. Measured. The same voice that had promised to protect her. The same voice that had sat across from her in conference rooms and safe houses, building trust while feeding information to whoever wanted Claire dead. Claire's hands didn't shake anymore. They'd gone numb. She sat in the darkness of the secure apartment and did the math. Kim had known every location, every movement, every witness. She'd been the one to suggest the cabin, the one to arrange the transfers, the one who'd thrown Claire's phone out the window, not to protect her, but to isolate her. The fake Agent Dawson hadn't been a mistake. He'd been a test, and Claire had survived it, which meant Kim was getting desperate. Claire stood, grabbed her jacket, the knife from the kitchen. She wasn't running this time. She was going hunting. The federal building was quiet at 2 a.m. Security at the front desk, badge scanners, cameras everywhere. Claire didn't go through the front. She went through the parking garage, maintenance entrance. She'd seen Kim use it once, weeks ago, when they'd needed to move a witness without cameras. The door was locked, but the cipher pad was old. Claire had watched Kim punch in the code. Muscle memory was a beautiful thing. 4 digits. Click. Inside, the hallway was fluorescent and empty. Claire moved fast, took the stairs to the 12th floor. Kim's office was at the end. The door was closed, but not locked. Sloppy. Claire slipped inside. The office was small. Desk, computer, filing cabinets. Nothing personal. No photos. No plants. Just work. Claire pulled out the small flash drive Ortiz had given her 2 weeks ago. Insurance, she'd called it. A way to access FBI servers if things went sideways. Claire plugged it into Kim's computer. The screen flickered. Lines of code scrolled. Then files opened. Emails, wire transfers, communications. All from Kim to Gerald Price, to officers under investigation, to people Claire didn't recognize, instructions, locations, warnings. Kim had been the leak from the beginning. Claire's stomach turned. She'd trusted this woman, believed her, let her into her life, and Kim had sold her out. The door opened behind her. Claire spun. Kim stood in the doorway. No weapon, just tired eyes and a slight smile. "I wondered when you'd figure it out," Kim said. Claire pulled the knife. "Don't move." Kim raised her hands, slowly. "Relax. I'm not here to hurt you." "You tried to have me killed." "No, I tried to control you. There's a difference." Kim stepped inside, closed the door. "The people I work for, they wanted you dead. I convinced them you were more useful alive, as leverage, as a cautionary tale for anyone else who thought about speaking up." "How generous." "I'm serious. You think Holloway was the problem? You think Driscoll was the top? They were nothing. Foot soldiers. The real power is higher. Judges, prosecutors, city officials, people who've been running the city for decades. People who don't get their hands dirty but profit from the chaos." Claire didn't lower the knife. "And you work for them." "I work for survival, same as you." Kim sat on the edge of the desk, casual, like they were having coffee. "You know what's funny? I actually admire you. You're tough, smart, you don't quit. That's rare." "Shut up." "But you're naive, like, you think exposing Driscoll and Holloway changes anything? It doesn't. The system replaces them, promotes someone else, buries the evidence deeper next time. You can't win against something this big." "Then I'll die trying." Kim's smile faded. "That can be arranged." Claire's grip tightened on the knife. Why are you here? Why tell me any of this? Because I'm giving you a choice. One last chance. Kim stood. Walk away. Take the settlement the city's offering. $500,000, tax-free. Sign the NDA. Move somewhere quiet. Start over. Disappear. That's not a choice. It's the only choice you've got. Because if you keep pushing, if you testify against the others, they won't send someone like Dawson next time. They'll make it look like an accident, a robbery, a suicide, and no one will question it because you've made so many enemies. Claire studied her. Kim's posture, her breathing. She was stalling, waiting for something. How much did they pay you? Claire asked. Kim blinked. What? To sell out the women on that list, to bury complaints, to protect murderers. How much? Kim's smile vanished. You wouldn't understand. Try me. I have student loans, a mortgage, a mother with Alzheimer's who needs full-time care that costs $8,000 a month, and the bureau pays shit. So when someone offers you $50,000 to look the other way on a complaint, you take it. When they offer you another $100 to lose a file, you do it. It's not personal. It's economics. And when they ask you to help kill someone, Kim's jaw tightened. I never agreed to that. But you didn't stop it. I couldn't. You didn't try. The words hung between them. Kim looked away. You're right, I didn't, and I'll have to live with that. But I'm not going to prison for it. I'm too smart for that. She pulled a gun from her waistband. Claire didn't hesitate. She threw the knife. It wasn't a combat throw, wasn't clean or precise. But it was close enough. The blade hit Kim's shoulder. She screamed. The gun clattered to the floor. Claire dove for it. Kim tackled her. They hit the ground hard. Claire's head cracked against the tile. Stars burst behind her eyes. Kim's hands found her throat. Claire bucked, twisted, got a knee up into Kim's ribs. The grip loosened. Claire grabbed the gun, rolled, came up pointing it at Kim's chest. Kim froze. Blood dripped from her shoulder. Her breathing was ragged. Don't. Claire's finger hovered over the trigger. Her whole body was shaking now, not from fear, from rage. This woman had tried to destroy her, had enabled killers, had sold out victims for money, one pull. That's all it would take. But Claire lowered the gun. I'm not like you, she said. Kim laughed, bitter, pained. No, you're worse. You actually believe the system works. It does, when people make it work. You're going to get yourself killed believing that. Maybe, but at least I'll die standing up. Claire stood, kept the gun trained on Kim, pulled out her new phone with her free hand and called Haynes. He answered on the first ring. Claire, I'm in Kim's office, federal building, 12th floor. She's the mole, and I have proof. Silence. Then, don't move. I'm coming. 5 minutes later, the building swarmed with agents, not FBI, U.S. Marshals. People Haynes trusted. They cuffed Kim, read her rights, applied pressure to her shoulder wound while they waited for paramedics. She didn't look at Claire as they led her away. But as she reached the elevator, she stopped, turned. You think you won, Kim said, but you have no idea what's coming. The elevator doors closed. Haynes found Claire sitting on the floor outside the office, the gun on the ground beside her. You okay? Claire shook her head. No. You will be. How do you know? Because you're still here, still fighting. That's how I know. Brennan arrived an hour later. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. His tie was loose, his shirt wrinkled. Kim's confessing, he said. Full cooperation, names, accounts, wire transfers, meeting locations, everything. In exchange for what? Claire asked. 20 years, federal witness protection after she serves her time. Claire's jaw clenched. Another deal. It's how the system works. Then the system's broken. Brennan sat down next to her on the hallway floor. Maybe, but it's the system we've got. And because of you, it's getting better. Kim gave us 12 names, judges, lawyers, a state senator, 2 city council members, people who've been untouchable for years. We're filing charges against all of them. When? Next week. Federal grand jury. If it goes the way we think, this whole thing blows wide open. Nationally. It won't just change this city, it'll change policy, oversight, training, hiring practices, everything. Claire looked at him. Because one nurse wouldn't shut up? Because one nurse refused to be a victim. The trials took 9 months. Claire testified in 7 of them. Sat in courtrooms from April through December. Answered questions. Faced defense attorneys who tried to shred her credibility, paint her as vindictive, suggest she'd fabricated evidence for attention. But she didn't break. Each time they attacked her character, she stayed calm. Each time they questioned her motives, she told the truth. Each time they tried to intimidate her, she looked them in the eye and refused to blink. Each verdict came back the same: guilty. The officers, the lawyers, the senator who'd taken campaign contributions in exchange for blocking police reform legislation, the city council members who'd buried civilian complaints, the judge who'd dismissed cases against connected officers, all of them convicted. Sentences ranging from 10 years to life. The police department was gutted, restructured, put under federal oversight for a decade with mandatory external review boards and civilian oversight committees. The mayor resigned. The police chief was indicted on conspiracy charges. Internal Affairs was disbanded entirely and rebuilt from scratch with civilian leadership and mandatory public reporting. And the women, Holloway's victims, Driscoll's casualties, the 17 names on the list, they came forward, testified, spoke in courtrooms and on camera, found their voices. Claire watched it happen from the outside. She didn't do interviews after the first few, didn't write a book despite 5-figure offers, didn't become a spokesperson or activist. She just went back to work. Crescent General welcomed her back with open arms. The hospital threw a small reception in the cafeteria, cake, balloons, a plaque that read, "In recognition of courage and service." Claire stood in the break room, awkward and uncomfortable, while her co-workers clapped. Dr. Patel stepped forward. "We're proud of you. What you did, it matters. Not just to those women, to everyone who works here. You showed us what integrity looks like." "I was just trying to survive," Claire said. "That's how all great change starts. One person deciding they've had enough." Renee hugged her tight. "You're staying this time, right? No more running off to fight corruption and take down criminal enterprises?" Claire smiled. "I'm staying." "Good. Because we're understaffed and I'm tired of pulling doubles. Also, you owe me like 50 therapy sessions for the stress you put me through." "I'll buy you coffee." "You'll buy me a car." Life settled into something close to normal. Claire worked her shifts, saved lives, went home to the house on Ridgefield Avenue. The neighborhood had changed. Some people apologized. Others moved away quietly. Andrea, the woman who'd warned her about suspicious cars, left a note on her door. "I'm sorry. I should have asked instead of assumed. I should have supported you instead of judging you. I hope you can forgive me." Andrea Claire kept the note, put it in a drawer. Forgiveness took time. But one afternoon, 3 months after the last trial, a package arrived. No return address. Inside was a framed photo, 17 women, standing together outside the courthouse, arms linked, smiling. The survivors. On the back, someone had written, "Thank you for giving us our voices back. Thank you for showing us we weren't alone. Thank you for fighting when we couldn't." All of us. Claire hung it in her hallway, where she'd see it every day. Proof that survival wasn't selfish, that standing up wasn't just about yourself, that sometimes your fight became someone else's freedom. 6 months after the last trial, Haynes showed up at her house unannounced. Claire was in her yard, pulling weeds, wearing old jeans and a Crescent General t-shirt. "Got a proposition for you," he said. Claire stood, wiping dirt from her hands. "I'm not interested." "You haven't heard it yet." "I don't need to. I'm done with investigations, testimonies, task forces, all of it. I want my life back." Haynes sat on her porch steps. "It's not an investigation. It's a training program, national initiative, focused on protecting veterans who report abuse within law enforcement and military systems, teaching advocates how to navigate the complaint process, how to build cases, how to survive retaliation. We need someone who understands the fight, someone who's lived it." Claire sat next to him. "You want me to do this full-time?" "Part-time, consultant, contractor. You train advocates 4 times a year, review high-risk cases, help victims navigate the system, provide strategic guidance. You'd still work at the hospital, But you'd also help people who don't know how to fight back. Claire looked at the photo visible through her front window, the 17 women. Would I have to testify? Not unless you want to. Would I have to do interviews? No. Would I have to be the face of something? The poster child for victims' rights? Haynes smiled. No. You just have to be you. Tough, smart, unwilling to back down, willing to tell people the truth even when it's hard. Claire thought about it, about the night she'd spent hiding, about the moment Holloway had grabbed her wrist, about Kim's betrayal, about the women who'd been silenced for years. Okay, she said, I'll do it. Just like that? Just like that. But I have conditions, I work on my terms, my schedule, and if it interferes with patient care, the hospital comes first. Deal. The task force launched 3 months later. Quiet. No press conference, no fanfare, no celebrity endorsements or publicity campaigns. Just work. Claire trained 20 advocates in the first year. Military veterans, civilian whistleblowers, people who'd filed complaints and faced retaliation. She taught them how to document everything, how to build timelines, how to identify patterns, how to protect themselves. She reviewed 40 cases, helped 12 veterans file complaints that had been buried for years, connected them with lawyers, walked them through the process. She didn't save everyone. Some cases were too old, some victims too scared, some systems too entrenched. But she saved enough. And slowly, incrementally, the system started to shift. Complaint procedures changed, oversight boards gained real power. Retaliation protections strengthened, transparency increased. Not everywhere, not perfectly, but it was movement. A year after everything ended, Claire stood in her driveway on a quiet Saturday morning. The garage door had been repainted, white, clean, no trace of the red letters that had started everything. A car pulled up. Ortiz got out. Thought you might want to see this, she said. She handed Claire a folder. Inside were photos, crime scene documentation, evidence logs, autopsy reports, DNA analysis, witness statements. Melissa Tran's case had been reopened, reclassified as homicide. New evidence, fibers from Holloway's car, digital records showing he'd been near her apartment the night she died. Testimony from a neighbor who'd seen him leaving the building tied him directly to her death. Her family's filing a wrongful death suit, Ortiz said, against the city, the department, everyone who covered it up. Their lawyer says they're going to win. Big settlement, public apology, the works. Claire closed the folder. Good. They deserve that. Ortiz leaned against her car. You know, when I first met you, I thought you were just another scared victim. Someone who'd file a complaint and then disappear when things got hard. I almost did. But you didn't. Why? Claire thought about that. About the boy from the factory explosion whose life she'd saved. About the women on the list. About the moment she'd decided to stop running and start fighting. Because I was tired of being afraid, she said, and because nobody else was going to do it. And because somewhere along the way, I realized that silence wasn't protection. It was just another kind of prison. Ortiz nodded slowly. Well, you did it, and it mattered, more than you probably know. She drove away. Claire stood in her driveway for a long time, watching the neighborhood, the quiet street, the houses full of people who judged her, ignored her, turned their backs when she needed support. Some of them waved now. Some nodded. Some still avoided eye contact. She didn't care anymore. Their opinions didn't define her. Their judgment didn't control her. She'd learned that the hard way. That night, Claire sat on her porch with a cup of tea, wrapped in a blanket, watching the stars emerge. Her phone buzzed, a text from one of the advocates she'd trained. A woman named Jessica, who'd been harassed by her commanding officer and was terrified to file a complaint. We won. The complaint was validated. He's being court-martialed. I can't believe it worked. Thank you for showing me how to fight. Thank you for not giving up on me when I wanted to quit. Claire smiled. Set the phone down. She thought about everything she'd lost, the quiet life she'd wanted, the anonymity, the peace, the version of herself who could walk through the world unnoticed. And she thought about everything she'd gained, purpose, clarity, the knowledge that she could stand up and not break, the understanding that her voice mattered even when it shook. The neighborhood was silent except for the sound of crickets and distant traffic and wind moving through the trees. Claire closed her eyes. She wasn't a hero, wasn't a symbol, wasn't perfect, wasn't fearless. She was just a woman who'd refused to disappear. And in a world that tried to silence her, erase her, break her down until she accepted that speaking up was more dangerous than staying quiet. That was enough. 2 years later, Claire stood in front of a congressional committee in Washington, D.C., not as a victim, as an expert witness on proposed federal legislation. They'd invited her to testify about protections for whistleblowers in law enforcement, oversight mechanisms, accountability measures. She'd resisted at first, but Haynes had convinced her. "Your voice carries weight now," he'd said. "Use it." She wore her scrubs, hadn't bothered with a suit. She was who she was. The chairman, a silver-haired senator from Ohio, leaned forward. "Ms. Bennett, you've become something of a symbol for survivors of police misconduct and institutional retaliation. How do you feel about that designation?" Claire met his eyes. "I'm not a symbol. I'm a nurse. I work nights at Crescent General Hospital in my hometown. I save lives. I start IVs. I hold hands when people are scared. And sometimes, on my days off, I help people fight systems that tried to destroy them. But you've inspired. I didn't do this to inspire anyone. I did it to survive. The fact that other people found strength in that, that's on them. They did the work. They found their voices. They made the choice to stand up. I just refused to be erased." The room was silent. A congresswoman from California spoke up. "What would you say to someone facing what you faced? Someone who's been threatened, retaliated against, told that speaking up will ruin their life?" Claire thought about that. About the women who'd called her late at night, crying, asking if it was worth it. About the veterans who'd reached out, terrified, wondering if they should just quit and walk away. About the people who saw her story and found the courage to tell their own. "I'd say it's going to be hard," Claire said slowly. "Harder than you think. People will doubt you, attack you, try to make you feel crazy or vindictive or like you're the problem. The system will protect itself. It always does. People will offer you settlements to stay quiet. They'll threaten you. They'll isolate you." She paused. "But I'd also say that silence protects the people who hurt you, not you. And your voice, even if it shakes, even if you're terrified, even if you're not sure anyone's listening, is the only weapon they can't take away unless you give it to them." She leaned forward. "I'd tell them to document everything, build their case carefully, find people who believe them, and when they're ready, when they've done everything they can to protect themselves, speak. Because the system isn't perfect. It's slow and frustrating, and sometimes it fails. But it can work. If you make it work, if you refuse to let them bury you. And if they try to destroy you anyway?" the senator asked. Claire smiled, small, tired. "Then you get back up. Because they're counting on you staying down, and the moment you stand up again, you've already won." The committee members nodded, took notes, asked more questions. When the hearing ended, Claire walked out into the hallway. Reporters swarmed, but she moved through them without stopping. She'd said what she came to say. Haynes was waiting by the exit. "You did good in there." "I told the truth. That's all. That's everything." They walked outside. The sun was bright. The Capitol building gleamed white behind them. The city stretched out, vast and complicated, and full of people fighting their own battles. "You ever think about quitting?" Haynes asked. "Walking away from all of this?" "Every day." "But you don't." Claire shook her head. "No, because the work isn't done. Because there are still people who need help. Because systems don't change themselves. It never ends, does it?" "No, but that doesn't mean we stop trying." 3 years after the first trial, Claire received a letter forwarded through the task force. It was from a woman she didn't know. A young Marine, 24 years old. Someone who'd been sexually harassed by her platoon sergeant and didn't know how to fight back without destroying her career. The letter was handwritten. Careful. "Dear Ms. Bennett, I don't know if you'll ever read this, but I wanted you to know that I read about what you did. About how you stood up even when it was terrifying. About how you kept fighting, even when everyone told you to stop. I didn't think I could do it too. I thought I was too weak, too scared, too small to matter. But I filed a complaint yesterday, a formal complaint through my chain of command. I'm terrified. I don't know what's going to happen. But I'm not backing down. Thank you for showing me it's possible. Thank you for being brave when I couldn't be. J. Claire pinned the letter to her bulletin board at home, next to the photo of the 17 women, next to citations from the hospital, next to thank you cards from patients, next to a commendation from the task force. Proof that survival wasn't just about staying alive. It was about refusing to let the people who hurt you define who you became. It was about standing up even when you were shaking. It was about using your voice even when it broke. That weekend, Claire threw a small gathering at her house. Nothing fancy, just people who mattered. Renee and her husband, Dr. Patel and his wife, Ortiz, Haynes, 3 of the advocates from the task force, 2 of the women from the original 17. They grilled burgers in the backyard, drank beer and lemonade, laughed about stupid hospital stories, and argued about politics and sat in comfortable silence. At one point, Renee raised her glass. To Claire, who took on the system and won. Claire shook her head. I didn't win. The system's still broken. There's still corruption, still people getting hurt, still cases getting buried. But there's also accountability now, Haynes said. Oversight, change, real consequences, because of you. Because of all of us, Claire corrected. I didn't do this alone. No, one of the advocates said. But you showed us it could be done. That matters. They drank to that. As the sun set, Claire stood in her backyard, looking at the people who'd stood by her, who'd fought with her, who'd believed her when it mattered most. She thought about the woman she'd been 3 years ago, exhausted, invisible, trying to disappear into her scrubs and her quiet life, wanting nothing more than to be left alone. That woman was gone. In her place stood someone different, not fearless, not unbreakable, not perfect, but someone who'd learned that courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was moving forward despite it. Someone who'd learned that power wasn't about being the loudest or the strongest. It was about refusing to be silenced. Someone who'd learned that justice wasn't guaranteed, but it was possible if you fought for it. Claire raised her glass to the darkening sky, to Melissa Tran, who'd never gotten to see justice, to the 17 women who'd survived, to everyone who'd been crushed by the system and never got their day in court. This one's for you, she said quietly. The night was warm, the stars were bright, laughter echoed from the porch, and for the first time in years, Claire felt something she'd forgotten existed. Not just peace, but belonging. Not just survival, but purpose. The kind that came from knowing she'd stood up, spoken out, refused to be erased. The kind that came from knowing her fight had mattered. The kind that came from knowing that no matter what came next, she'd face it standing. Because the system hadn't broken her. She'd broken the system and rebuilt herself in the process. Months later, somewhere across the country, a woman sat in her apartment staring at her phone. She'd been harassed by a supervisor for 8 months, grabbed, cornered, propositioned. She'd kept quiet because she needed the job, because she was afraid, because she didn't think anyone would believe her. But tonight, she'd seen a news segment about Claire Bennett, about the trials, about the convictions, about how one woman's refusal to stay silent had exposed an entire network of corruption. She thought about the complaint form she'd downloaded but never filled out. She thought about the evidence she'd been collecting, text messages, emails, witnesses who'd seen it happen. She thought about the fear that had kept her silent for so long. And she thought about Claire Bennett, a nurse from a small city who'd faced down cops and lawyers and federal agents in a system designed to crush her. If she could do it, the woman opened her laptop, and she started typing because one voice had shown her it was possible, and now she was ready to add hers. The work wasn't done. It would never be completely done. Systems were stubborn, power protected itself, corruption found new hiding places. But the fight continued, one voice at a time, one complaint at a time, one person deciding they'd had enough. And somewhere in a quiet house on Ridgefield Avenue, Claire Bennett slept peacefully. Not because the world was fixed, but because she'd done her part. And that was enough.